I'm juggling my kids' school meetings too. I just put the wrong time, but I wanted to apologize to you because I know that it was a waste of your time to show up and not have me be there. And so I feel like there are a couple key ingredients to a good apology. One being do it soon. So this is my first opportunity to apologize to you. The second ingredient is to tell you that I'm sorry, and I know how it must have impacted you, which is you showed up expecting to see something and you didn't get it, and that can be frustrating. And then I think the third ingredient of a good apology is to, if you can, do something to try to make it right. So I wanted to offer something to all of you as a way of apologizing, and hopefully it makes it right. I heard that some of you may have read the first book in the Fitting Out series, The Friendship Experiment. So I wanted to offer you all the opportunity to read book number 2 for free. So tomorrow it's going to be listed on Amazon, and anybody with an Amazon account can go download book number 2, which looks like this, and read it for free. So that is my way of apologizing to you all. I hope you'll forgive me, and I hope that if you get the chance to read this, that you enjoy this book too. So now that that is out of the way, when I visit a class, what I like to do is talk for a few minutes about how I became a writer, and then dive more into the book. But the reason that I like to talk about how I became a children's book writer is that I haven't always done it. I've been writing for many, many years, but doing a different type of writing. I write business reports for marketing, helping companies picture who their perfect customer might be, what kind of products their customer likes to buy, what kind of messages they could put in their commercials to make their customers happy. And it was only a few years ago that I started to think, I wonder if I can use those same writing skills I have and the same computer programs that I use to make business reports and charts and graphs and actually write a children's story. So I had to figure out how it all worked because I had never done it before. Christina, I'll ask you if I'm able to ask for volunteer answers from your students. And if so, would you rather they respond via chat or unmute? Do you want to choose volunteers? How do you want to do?
I'm going to, what works best with you when you're doing these Zoom broadcasts?
Well, since I can't see everyone, either chat or if you can choose a volunteer, either one works
Okay,
just fine for me.
just stick with the chat. That's how we've been utilizing it with our Zoom lessons as well. So that just might be
Cool.
the easiest for them.
Okay, so then when I ask for volunteers, I'll pick the first couple of responses, and I will see all your responses, but if I don't get to yours first, it just means that someone beat you to the punch on this first question. So I had this new adventure I wanted to do. I wanted to find out what it takes to be a children's book author and use my writing skills to do something brand new. Does anyone have an idea of what you would do to find out more about how to do something you had never done before? So if you have an idea, type it in the chat. I want to see if someone has a different idea from what I did, or maybe someone would do exactly what I did. Nicholas said research. Okay, yes. So Joe says research also. That's exactly what I did. And the place that I started, because I'm an old-fashioned gal, is the library. I was already going to the library. Oh, Miguel says never give up. I like that a lot too. You definitely need that in the career of being an author. Probably many careers that would be helpful. But I started with research at the library, and I did 2 types of research. First, I started checking out a lot of children's books and reading them again. I already had my story idea, so I wasn't looking for ideas, but I wanted to see how children's books are built. What's the right number of pages in a chapter? How many illustrations do I like to see? What kind of ending do I enjoy as a reader? And maybe that's what I would like to write. So I looked at children's books, and then I also read many books about how to write books. I read some books that were how to write a book from start to finish. And then I read other big books about just a small piece of the puzzle. Like I read a book this fat on just how to develop a character. So I did my research at the library, And then the second thing I did to prepare for a career as a children's book author is I decided it was time to work with the experts. And as an author, there are a couple types of experts that you work with. The first one are experts called editors. And you all may have some experience with editing. Perhaps you write something in class. Some students get to edit each other's work before it goes to the teacher. And then a lot of times your teacher also works as an editor, tells you maybe how your writing could be better or if there are corrections to make. Authors do the same thing. We look at each other's work first, and then we send our work to professional editors who are very, very tough. They catch everything, every little mistake and correction, but that's their job. It's not to make us feel like we did something wrong. It's to help us make our book as good as it can possibly be before it gets out into the world. So I did my research. I worked with my expert editors. And then the last type of experts that authors work with are experts in publishing. And publishing is kind of a big fancy word, but what it really means is all the steps it takes to get an idea from an author and the work from their computer, and publishers know what kind of paper to print it on and how to get a glossy cover. And they know how to print up hundreds and hundreds of copies and send them to bookstores and libraries so that they can make their way to readers. So for this book that you all may have seen some of, The Friendship Experiment, from idea to research to editors to publishing took 2 years. Now, I don't know, I can't see all of your reactions, but I thought that was way too long, 2 years, oh no. If it takes 2 years every time I want to write a book, how am I going to be able to do this? But the good news is, a lot of that research and learning that I did, I take forward with me. So now I can just focus on getting better. So this one took 2 years, but this one only took half of a year. And this one took even less than that. And the good news is I have had other story ideas all along the way. And so now that I know how it all works, I can keep doing this for many years. Plus, I still write business reports too. I'm able to do both of those jobs together. So that works very well for me. So that's it. That is the story of how I became a children's book author. And this first series that is out in the world is the Fitting Out Book series, starring Max McConk. This is my first set of books, and I'm working on some others, but the next couple of books will actually be about something different. For example, a book that I have due out later this year is going to be about Max's robot and cat. You may remember from the story, Switches the robot and Peeps the cat. I enjoyed this illustration so much, I just looked at it and felt like I wanted to know more about these characters. So they'll have their own set of stories too. All right, so that's sort of my speaking about being an author and about my books. I know you all had prepared some questions. I believe I saw a really good list. If you want to start putting your questions in the chat box, I'd be happy to answer questions you might have.
Christopher, if you want to go ahead and read your question for Miss Sarah, that'd be wonderful. I went ahead and unmuted you.
Cool.
Have you always wanted to be an author?
Oh, I am so glad you asked that, because I think that I had wanted to be an author when I was a kid. And I got busy with life, and I went down different roads with my career, and I almost forgot how much I enjoyed writing stories. But my mom came to visit me this summer, and she brought me something that I had completely forgotten that I even did. I used to make books for my family as presents when I was a kid, and she brought me one of the ones that I made. Can I show it to you?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So this is it. And you can see it's a little bit worn from all the many years since I made this. But when I was a kid, whenever I made something, I always wanted to try to make it look like the real thing. So I wanted this to look like a real book. So I cut up a thick cardboard box, and I covered it with the shiniest wrapping paper that we had, so we would have that shiny cover. And then I put the pages inside. Look how long ago I did this.
From 1989?
Yeah. So this is my first title page. I never figured out how to attach the pages. I need to do that before this thing falls apart. But I was working on my own version of the Nutcracker Prince story. So you can see here my first illustrations in crayon and pen. But what was really special about my mom bringing this to me was that I realized, oh my goodness, this is a dream maybe that I've had my whole life, and now I'm actually getting the chance to do it as a career, and that feels really special. The reason I like to tell students about that is if you've got something like that that you love to do, it feels great to do it, you have lots of ideas, you feel good while you're doing it, don't forget, don't let go of it, work on it, and you can start that career from the very beginning and not, miss out on some time like I did. But like I said, I'm doing it now and I'm so happy that I did. Before we take another one, I saw Naomi sent a question in a few minutes ago. What is my favorite book? May I answer that? Okay. So Naomi, my favorite book is one that I read when I was in second grade, and I can still remember how excited I was because it came through the book fair and all the kids were talking about it. And by the time I got to the book fair, there was just one copy left and it was mine, and I couldn't wait to read it. And the book was called Sideways Stories from Wayside School. Now I know that book is still out. Does anyone know that one? I see Christina maybe knows that one. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a couple reasons why it's my favorite. First, I really like that each chapter is sort of its own story, so I could put it down and pick it up and never felt like I had to remember where I left off, which was good as I was just starting to get better at reading. And then I also loved that it was about elementary school, and I was in elementary school. I loved reading stories sort of about the way my life was at the time, and I think that's why I like to write about Max's life in elementary school, because I figure the readers might be able to relate to what he's going through, since it's kind of what they're going through too. So that's my answer, Sideways Stories. Then I see Rian or Rian, I'm not sure which way to pronounce it, so apologies if I got it wrong. Pardon? Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan. Oh, all right. I wasn't even close. All right, Ryan, my favorite class in 5th grade. That's a tough one. I honestly don't remember my classes. I can just tell you that I played soccer at recess every day. And I was really excited about going to middle school. In 5th grade, I don't remember a particular class, but I loved my teacher very much. She was a really interesting person. She used to travel all over the world and volunteer to help different countries. And I just remember really enjoying my teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, and everything that she had to tell us about. Let's see, Alexis asks, is it hard to write books? Well, I wish I could tell you, oh no, it's so fun and easy, but it's so hard to write books. But that is what makes books so great, I think, because when you get a book in your hand, those authors have worked very hard and researched and worked on improving their skills and had multiple editors tell them all the hundreds of things they needed to fix, so that by the time you get it in your hands, your time is well spent reading those books. So it is hard. It takes time. It takes patience. You have to be willing to write and rewrite a story. But if you are willing to do those things, when you see your own book after all that work, you will be amazed at how far it's come and what you can accomplish. So even though it's very hard, it's very exciting and fulfilling, and it feels great to do it. And it's wonderful to be able to connect with readers and talk about books. So totally worth it. Okay, Miguel says, did I have a hard time making friends, and did any of my friends move away? Yes, and guess what? I still have a hard time making friends because I still feel shy. So it's something that I've learned to practice, and I have tricks that I do to get ready for making new friends, to make it a little easier, that I've learned over time what works for me and what doesn't. But I think it maybe is something that will always be hard for me. I've just, like Max did, learned the best way for me, the way I am, to do it. I did not have any good friends move away, but I was that friend. I moved several times when I was a kid and actually went to 4 different elementary schools. So that experience of making new friends, I had over and over. And each time it was difficult for me. Being shy is tricky. And I hadn't really figured out how to move past it. So it was always a little scary for me, but it always worked. And then I look back now and I say, hey, I had lots of practice making new friends. That's probably a good thing and probably what makes it a little easier today. Let's see, how did I come up with my character Max? This is a question from Joe. So Max, when I had the idea for this book, it was actually just going to be a poem at first and maybe a small picture book. So Max was going to be a penguin and he was going to have a friend who was a panda bear. And they were going to tell the story of how, even though they were very different, they had enough in common that they could hang out and have a really good time together. But as I started writing it, I realized this is not really a penguin and panda bear problem. This is a kid problem. So what kind of kid would this problem happen to? And that's when I started dreaming about what Max might be like. I made him look like my dad when my dad was a kid. And that's why I include a picture of my dad in the front of all my books. So here's a picture of my dad when he was little. And there's another one you'll get to see in the front of the second book. So that's how I figured out what he would look like. And then to figure out what he would be like, I did an exercise where I thought about what it would be like if he was sitting next to me. What would he say? What would his bad habits be? What did he have for breakfast? What does he like to do for fun? And I have an exercise called a me map where you can think about those things about yourself as a way of developing a character. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but to create a character, I do kind of the same thing as I would on a me map. I do a character map of what's really going on inside Max that makes him interesting to read about and also makes this making friends thing a kind of a big problem. And that took a long time. I wrote Max and I rewrote Max and I rewrote Max, and I still do, but each time I add something to his personality, he becomes more real to me. So now it's sort of like Max is a friend of mine, and I think that's really cool. Okay, Francisco asks, what is the favorite book that I did? Oh, well, I think this one will probably always be my favorite because it has so much of my heart and hard work and learning wrapped up in it. And 2 years of my life, as I mentioned earlier. So no matter how many books I write, even though I always love the one I'm working on right now, this will probably always have a very special place in my heart. Let's see, Paul asks a question, and I might ask you to type a little bit more, Paul, here. It says, what tip or type of subject you like in grade through 12th grade?
And Paul, I went ahead and unmuted you, so if you want to re-ask that question, okay?
Okay, what type of subject you like in 5th grade through 12th grade?
That's interesting. No one has ever asked me that before. I will have to try to think about what I liked the best. I did like to write, so I always enjoyed my English classes because whenever we got a chance to write, I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed computer classes. I went to school so long ago, we actually did very little work on computers. It was all paper and pencil, and there was no internet. So whenever we got to have access to computers, I thought that was really exciting. What's cool about that is now I'm writing all the time, and I use my computer with all my writing and all my illustrations. So my favorite subjects back then are kind of what I'm using now to do this whole adventure. So maybe it was meant to be. That's a really interesting question, Paul. Thanks for asking it. I want to ask you before I let you go, Paul, what is your favorite subject in school?
It's easy. Math.
Math. Oh, that's cool.
It's actually very easy, except for the others.
All right. Well, if you think it's easy, that must mean that you're pretty good at it. It's not easy for everyone.
So there's a reason. There's a reason.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And Paul also
I have
loves to
autism.
draw.
So that's probably the reason I have autism.
What's probably the reason?
I have autism. So that's the reason why I'm kind of good at math.
Oh, all right. Well, that's very cool. I'm glad to know that about you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Ooh, Ryan loves science and language arts. Very cool. Maybe a future nonfiction writer there. Autumn wants to know if I like reading. I love reading. And to be honest, I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it because I had been reading a lot of business books. I like them okay. And a lot of times I have a purpose for reading them. But when I started reading children's books again, when I was doing my research, I remembered how much I love to read, how much I love to get lost in a story. And I'm really excited to be doing it again. Plus, there's so many different ways to read now. You can read on your phone, on a computer, or go to the library. I think my favorite is just going to the library and walking around and seeing what catches my eyes. But I love to read, and I'm so glad to be getting to do more of it these days. Miguel wants to know who was my best friend. Oh, that's really interesting. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in the friendship experiment, Max's best friend who moved away is named Miguel. So that's a huge coincidence. But my best friend was named Becky, and she and I went to the same elementary school, but we were always in a different class for some reason. So we loved to have sleepover parties, and we were on the same soccer team. I mentioned how much I love to play soccer. And we spent almost every weekend together. And now we live apart, but we still keep in touch. But I remember how important she was to me in elementary school. And so when we finally settled in one place and I didn't have to move anymore and I got to enjoy my friendship with Becky, that was really special. Miguel, do you have a best friend too?
There you go, Miguel, you're unmuted.
He moved away to Mexico.
He did. Oh my gosh. So this story is maybe something that's happened to you too. Are you able to keep in touch?
Yeah, we play Fortnite.
Oh, nice. Oh, see, that's great. I didn't have anything like that, but that is a great way to stay in touch. Well, that's very cool. I'm glad you do because, you know, friends are really important. And as a kid, you may not realize it, but as you get older, you realize they're really, really important to have and to keep and to take care of your friendships. So I think that's super cool that you're keeping in touch. Nice. All right. Fernando says, why did you write the book? That's a really good question. I don't know if I have a great answer for you. It was an idea that popped into my head and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I got busy and a couple of days went by and I forgot about it. And then it popped into my head again. I was like, oh, there's that idea again. Yeah, that'd be fun to do that someday. And I got busy and distracted and I forgot about it again. But the third time the idea came back to me, I thought, this is something that keeps popping into my head. I wonder if I'm supposed to do something with it. And then when I started to explore and learn about doing it and wonder if I possibly could actually do this, that's when I realized I want to go for it. I want to try. So it was just a feeling I got that I wanted to write the book. And the more I did it and the more I worked on it, the more I wanted to see it through to the end. And then when I did see it through to the end, I liked it so well, I didn't ever want to stop. Let's see. Isaac wants to know, what is one thing I like about middle school? What I liked about middle school was that in elementary school, you stayed with one teacher for the full day. And in middle school, you got to go around to different teachers for each of the different subjects. So I remember that feeling of sort of getting to do something really important and different and move around and learn new things and make new friends in each class. It was just really sort of an exciting step up in what school meant. And I was at the age where I was excited to get older and try new things and do more. And so I remember really liking that about middle school, how things worked different than elementary school. And a lot of it was up to me to do. I liked that feeling. Let's see. Oh, so Christina says, hey, we did that. What is that referring to?
The me map.
Oh, yes. Okay. Gosh, that was a long time ago. I'm so glad you guys did the me map so that you can relate to what I was saying about a character. I use something similar to make my characters, just like the me map. I think about what they're like on the outside and on the inside. So if you've done the me map and you have a character you want to write about, it kind of works the same way. You can make your character even better by thinking about those same kind of things. Okay, let's see. Oh, Miguel wants to know if you were bullied in school. David wants to know what's, okay. So that's a few different questions. I don't feel like I was bullied in school, but I had definitely been teased before. I had definitely seen other people be bullied, and friends of mine. And I had definitely had times where I felt like someone was being really harsh with me and I wasn't sure what to do about it. And that's hard. I think no matter how old you are, that's hard to deal with. It feels bad and you feel unsure about what to do. Even as adults, that's a struggle. I think I think people think about it differently these days, and there's more of us that know that if we work together, we can stand tall against a bully, and that there are friends and adults around you who are there to help you stand up to bullies. And I hope you guys know that too, because sometimes it just takes a couple of us working together. So I do have some memories where I felt like someone was harsh with me, but I just take those memories with me and make sure that I don't do that to someone else, and make sure that I'm there if someone needs me to help. So I hope I answered your question, Miguel. If not, let me know in the chat. David wants to know what made you think about becoming an author. Yeah, David, I think, you know, I was used to writing and I had this idea that was pulling on my heart saying, work on this, work on this. And then at a certain point, I think I just wanted to see if I could do it. It was like a challenge. I wanted to see if I can really do this. It seemed like it would be an enjoyable career to have, and it seemed a little risky and scary to try, but I felt like I was at a point where I was ready to take a chance and give it a try, and I'm so glad I did. And to be honest with you, I wish I had taken a chance sooner. So if you have an idea, maybe think about ways to do your research and take some of that fear of trying and give it a try. It might be really worth it. Isabella asks, did you like to go to school? Yes, I loved school. If you, excuse me, just a minute, I have to grab a tissue. Sorry about that. Okay. And we're live, so that kind of thing happens. Isabella, did I like to go to school? Yes, I really did. And I miss it because maybe for some of the reasons you all miss school right now. We'll all be back in school one day, but what I liked about school was I liked the routine of going there every day. I loved seeing my teacher. I think it's great that you guys meet every day. That's really special. My kids don't get to meet as often, and I know it's hard for them. And I loved to be with my friends every day. And there were always lots of kids around to talk to play with, to learn from. And I really love that. Even up through college, you have that same opportunity to be around other people like you and learn from and talk to and play with. And that's a really fun experience. So as an adult, you sort of have to find ways to get that group feeling back. Okay.
We do have two more questions. Julissa, I unmuted you if you wanted to ask your question.
Sorry, it's because I didn't have a question.
Okay, I didn't know if it had already been answered, so I just wanted to check on you, okay? And then I do have, I believe, Nicholas has one final question. Nicholas, you should be unmuted. Should be.
If you were to like transport into any book, what book would it be?
Oh, if I could transport into any book, which book would I transport?
Yeah, like see the characters and be in the book.
Well, there is a book that I remember very well, which I wanted to be transported into until I got to the end of the book. And it's called The Chocolate Touch. Has anyone heard of this book or read this book? Okay. Christina again. Seems like we have the same taste in books. So it's a, if you haven't read it, it's a boy who everything he touches turns to chocolate. And that seemed like such an amazing superpower to have. I really enjoyed reading it, but he learns through the book that sometimes you can have too much of a good thing. Let's just say that. And so I wouldn't always want to be him, but I remember really, really wanting to have the chocolate touch. Whoever's question that was, can you tell me what book you would want to be transported into?
Pete the Cat and the Groovy Buttons.
Oh, nice. All right. I don't know that particular Pete the Cat book, but I know other Pete the Cat books too, and I would love to be in one of his books for sure. What is special about the Groovy Button? What is the part of that book that makes you want to be? Oh, Ryan's read the Chocolate Touch. Cool. What is the part of the Groovy Button that you like?
That he just goes around, doesn't care if his buttons fall off. It's like nothing happens.
Oh.
I wish I could be like that too.
You know what? I do too. That seems like a pretty relaxed way to be, and he might be feeling happier than some of us who worry about each button that falls off, huh?
Yes. Let me see. Miss Autumn raised her hand. I'm going to unmute. Oh, let me mute Nicholas. Let me find Autumn. There you go. Miss Autumn, go ahead. I think you're going to be our last question.
Did you go to college?
Yes, I did go to college, and if anybody watches college sports, I have my college mascot right here over my shoulder. Does anyone know what college that's for?
But where did you go to college?
I can tell you it's in the
Not the
southeast
college
part
one.
of the country.
Oh,
We're looking at the red and white right there where her finger's pointing. Anybody guess what that is? Let me see. Christopher raised his hand. Christopher, do you have an idea what mascot that is?
I raised it like a long time ago. My
Okay,
hand.
so let me mute you for a second. I'll come right back to you. I'm not going to put your hand down. I don't see anybody else raising their hands in this chat window.
All right,
Is that a
so,
bulldog?
ooh, did I hear someone say something?
Is that a bulldog?
Yes.
Okay, so does anybody know which college mascot has a bulldog? And it's in the South. I think y'all's head's trying to turn. I know it's still early. Miss Langston has her hand up. Go ahead, Miss Langston. There you are.
Is it Georgia?
Yes, Georgia Bulldog.
Yay, Miss Langston. You know, and it's so interesting you mentioned that, Autumn and Miss Giles, because I had looked at the video for the meme app, and you had even said, you know, I have clues in my office about, you know, things about your personality and your college. And I'll have to be honest, I didn't even see the bulldog there. I saw the grumpy cat and I saw the blue eyeballs next to it. I go, I'm pretty sure those aren't mascots. So I'm actually happy that this was brought up.
Mystery solved.
So to add on to the college experience, what did you study in college?
So I studied business, marketing, in fact, and I got another degree in marketing too. So when I was learning in college, it was all focused towards business, and I made a job out of doing writing for business. So coming back to doing the creative writing, it was already after college. So that's why it was really important to use research and to work with experts out in the world who are there to help people like me learn about how to do it and how to make a job out of it. So even though it wasn't what I went to college for, I could still put in the time and work to learn about it and figure out how it all works and make a job of it.
Okay, so let me come back to Christopher. Go ahead, Christopher, with your question with that hand raised. Thank you, sir.
What inspired you to make books?
Well, I think it's, you know, since I made those when I was younger, it's just something that I feel good when I do it. It feels fun to explore a new idea. I love to draw illustrations and see characters come to life. And so the idea that I can make things and share them with readers is very exciting. It's a little tough when you're shy to say, I'm going to put something out in the world that has my name on it, and I'm going to wait to hear whether people like it or not. That was pretty tricky, but I enjoy it so much. I take the risk, and I love to put in the time to create it, and I love to see what the world thinks of it when it gets out.
All
So what
right.
inspires me is just these ideas pop into my head, and I have that confidence now that I could take an idea and turn it into something, and I enjoy turning it into something. So I get inspired by the thought that I could take an idea and turn it into something.
All right, Miss Ryan, you should be unmuted and ready to go. Final question. Here we go.
Who or what inspired you to make the book?
Specifically the one that we've read, Ryan, or just any of her
Yes.
books?
The friendship experiment.
I think it was the idea that there may be other kids out there who, like me, have had this experience of either moving or having a friend move away, and having that feeling of how scary it can be to make new friends. And I thought, if I share this story with other people who have this experience or want to know more about it, they might be able to laugh about it. They might be able to understand better about it if I share my story. So it was kind of the idea of, this is something that I've seen happen, and this is a character that could bring this to life. And maybe there are other people in the world who would enjoy or be helped by reading about this message, and who might be able to say, hey, there's a way for me to do this that's just right for me. And so that message that I want to send is what made me want to put the book out.
Awesome. Well, we have well exceeded our anticipated time frame for this meeting. Again, thank you so much, Ms. Giles. I'm going to go ahead and unmute all of us at the same time. Go ahead, guys. What do we say for spending our time this morning?
Thank
you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, thanks everybody. And thanks for understanding. I'm super glad I got to meet with you today. Have a good one.
Great. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.